Good morning, supervisors, staff, and visitors. Before we get started, I just want to let you know that our administrator will not be here today. He's met with a little accident on his foot. He has a bad burn on his foot, so he was advised not to be here today. So we will go on without him. Do your roll call, please. We have 18 present and 3 absent. We have a majority vote, so we will continue on with our program. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have a motion to approve the agenda. A motion by Supervisor Baraboo and a second by Supervisor Steer. All in favor of that, please vote your ballot. We have 18 yes, 0 no, 3 absent. We have a majority vote. Motion to approve the minutes. Motion by Supervisor Draheim and a second by Huffberger. Are there any corrections or additions? All right, please vote your ballot. We have 18 yes, 0 nay, 3 absent. We have a majority vote, so the minutes have been approved. Are there any petitions?
There are no petitions.
Communications?
Our one communication is from Outagamie County. That's a resolution supporting pending legislation that would correct a discrepancy between parallel statutes that compute the detention hearing timelines for children in need of protection, CHIPS proceedings, under state statutes 48, the Children's Code, and juvenile delinquency cases under Chapter 938, the Juvenile Justice Code, by specifying that a day in which the Clerk of Court's office is closed does not count toward the computation of the detention hearing timeline under Chapter 938, which will ensure county governments are in a better position to save limited resources and protect the safety of their employees and the public.
All right, I'll refer that to Health and Human Services Committee. Is there any public participation? None? Okay. Special business. We're going to review the Calumet County Strategic Plan and the accomplishments at a glance. So we will have Michelle will update you on her department.
Good morning. I will, do you want me to touch on anything in Goal 1 that Todd would have addressed to Admin Services? Or go right to Goal 2? Okay. So in Goal 2, under Attract, Develop, and Maintain Highly Functioning County Staff, you'll see a number of bullets listed of various trainings that have occurred over 2019. I'll just highlight a couple to note. We had 22 managers and supervisors participate in our 6-session leadership development program. So all of our department heads and those managers and supervisors have all participated in that training. It was very, very well received. We continue to make supervisory training available outside of the county as well through programs, as you'll see from WPELRA and others. There was a lot of collaboration among county departments to offer training to employees. One example I'll call out is Health and Human Services staff coordinated a proofreading training for their staff and opened it up to all employees to be able to participate, those that had interest. I thought that was a nice collaboration. And then there are a number of departments that had department-specific trainings that they led and offered. Then as we carry on the next page under employee engagement, the county administrator and I participated and led a number of focus groups on employee recognition, from which we've gathered a lot of great feedback that we are using to compile recommendations on a new approach to employee appreciation and recognition within the county. So more to come on those results soon. Let's see, a number of departments as well shared and highlighted some of their efforts. We continue to have events to pull employees together, the blood drives that we hold on site, one coming up here in a few days. We did the holiday door decorating contest, which was something that we kind of resurrected from many years ago. That was a lot of fun and brought employees together, as well as the Halloween event that was hosted by our county activity group for the year, again, to bring employees and board supervisors together. So you can take a look there. For commitment to recruit, develop, and maintain the best employees, we added the whole life insurance benefit last year. We were also able to secure a 1% increase, which is phenomenal for our health insurance premiums for this year, and no increases to most of our other benefits. We had rolled out the Go 365 Wellness Program, which is, again, that digital program to engage our employees in wellness that's personalized to them. In fact, we had such high engagement and success with that program in its first year, we received an award from Humana for our high levels of engagement. So that's noted there as well. Very proud of that. And then just have noted we had 39 positions that we filled last year, 11 of which were filled with promotions, which I think is excellent to note. 3 positions were filled with internal transfers, and 3 were status changes, just employees shifting, for example, full-time, part-time. So I think our ability to continue to promote from within and lateral transfers continues to be a focus for us. And then our Veteran Service Department head was hired. And then on the next page, you'll see a number of the departments, IT, Sheriff's Office, and others that, again, did some department-specific activities. Onboarding, our Health and Human Services staff have made some improvements to their onboarding process, and our administrator continues to meet with all new hires, which, from what I understand, both he and all our new hires are enjoying immensely, and he's able to gather a lot of great feedback about our recruitment and onboarding process, which in turn helps us continue to improve. Would you like me to carry on to Goal 3 or see if there's questions?
So far as we're going? Okay.
All right.
Matthew. Excuse me, Matthew.
Thanks. Michelle, just a quick question.
Sure.
You had mentioned we had added a whole life insurance policy as a benefit.
Correct.
Why did we go with a whole life instead of a term policy?
We do have, excuse me, we do have basic life insurance as well. Whole life is a unique supplemental benefit that we added to complement the other benefits that we offer.
So is that a thing that is available for purchase separately, or is that a standard benefit then?
It's offered to all of our new hires, and it was offered to board at the time that we rolled it out as well. And it's a benefit that, just based on how the benefit is structured, those representatives will come on site once a year to onboard those new enrollees. So it's something that's going to continue to be offered among our other benefit packages.
Okay, so that's a base benefit.
Yes.
Okay. But isn't term life insurance cheaper than whole life insurance?
They have different benefits. Dan, you want to add?
Well, I guess just to clarify, Matthew, it's not a base benefit that the county is paying for. It's an
Correct.
optional benefit that the employee can enroll in, as well as term life insurance that they can enroll in.
So it's not really a benefit if you get to buy it.
It's a benefit available to employees, but it's their option whether or not they want it or not.
Okay.
Yep. Similar to vision, short-term disability, there's a number of benefits that we offer that employees can choose to participate in and use the benefit or choose not to. But it's made available to all qualifying new hires. Okay. Goal 3, focus on developing an internal and external communication plan. Couple highlights from the communication initiatives. We continue to implement and maintain the county brand, the new logo, and branding elements that began to roll out in 18 and continue in 19, and frankly continue into this year as well, as we're taking that phased approach, as well as some new logos, for example, Travel Calumet, which I know Matt will touch on later, the Sheriff's Office logo, and a few others. Deployed departmental resources such as a matrix to assist large departments like Health and Human Services to navigate how to deploy those branding elements within all their different forms and documents. Social media, we continue to leverage social media, both as a county and in several departments, to continue to maximize our presence and engagement with community members. We have had our communication specialists participate in ribbon cuttings, for example, at the bridge opening in Lake Park Road opening, again, just to continue to drive that presence of our contributions within our community and make that visible to the public. Communications, from a website standpoint, our communications and project specialist led and coordinated with several departments to launch our new website. Updated website provides better functionality, easier navigation for our residents as well as all of us. So if you haven't been out to our website, check it out. And I believe in an upcoming board meeting, we'll be sharing a brief overview of those enhancements as well. That was a huge undertaking. That was great collaboration among the departments. Let's see. Implemented Bernie in our emergency services area, implemented the Alert Sense internal and external communications programs for emergency management, which is a great tool we'll continue to leverage. And again, continued collaboration with Bernie and the various departments on those emergency management efforts. You bet.
Good morning. Glad to be here with you today to just give you a very brief update on Goal 5, which is our achievements as a county on the economic development goal. And Matt will join me in a little bit to talk about his department's tourism component. But couple of highlights, because you of course have the strategic plan report and you can review it yourself. But in terms of highlights, I think the biggest accomplishment from 2019 is the establishment of the Calumet County Business Education Partnership. That effort has really gotten some pretty significant legs under it. So it started in the summer of 2019 with a handful of businesses and some of our, what I call the rural high schools. So that, of course, does not include the Kimberly-Kaukauna Appleton School District. So my estimate is it serves roughly half of our high school student population. So that effort started in the summer of 2019 in a small meeting at Hilbert High School, getting some businesses and some school administrators together to just talk about what could they do more in a more organized fashion to support workforce development, with part of the goal being, can we prepare our young people in high school to achieve their dreams and visions? And sometimes that means a 4-year degree, sometimes it means a 2-year degree, might mean direct entry workforce or military. But for the students in particular who really want either a 2-year degree or direct entry in the workforce and stay local, we're really working to help those youth in high school experience what those jobs and careers will look like. And that effort has now grown so that we have about a dozen businesses, and it's both small and large employers. It's employers in all, not all yet, but the most of the employment sectors, and every one of the high schools are involved. We are also talking about how to grow this effort into the urban Fox Cities part of the county. But what we're trying to do is crawl before we walk, before we run, to start with the smaller schools where it's easier to have an impact, and then branch out into the Appleton, Kaukauna, Kimberly schools. So we are planning the second career fair, a career expo, which is going to be taking place in April. If you look at the newsletter or Todd's reports, you've seen that. But that effort between the businesses and the schools has really gained traction. The group meets monthly, and we have between 15 to 20 people there, and they are really engaged. In fact, I've had to sort of slow them down because in some regards, the businesses started getting ahead of resources that the county has. And my role is really to just be a support person in conjunction with our CISA Youth Apprenticeship Coordinator, Dawn Grenzer. So that's probably the biggest thing that started in 2019, which you will hear about over the next several years. Also just want to acknowledge that the business retention and expansion efforts that we support have increased. They are growing. Businesses recognize that Calumet County has a program that we are here to support them. Our entrepreneurship program got a little bit of a boost in 2019. The Small Business Development Center assigned us a new business counselor. His name is Ray York. If you look at my newsletter, I have his smiling face in there every month. The communities and the businesses really seem to like Ray. He's a very approachable, nice guy. And so our business support has increased. Ray works directly with our businesses, and then afterwards I find out who he has met with. So I'm no longer, or my program assistant Connie Leonard is no longer in the middle of setting up those meetings. Ray just sets them up directly. So I expect that our support for entrepreneurs and small businesses who want to do a business plan is going to continue to increase. Of course, in 2019, Calumet County received a community-wide brownfields assessment grant from EPA of $300,000. Admittedly, I didn't really understand what that meant. I just knew it was a good thing to bring $300,000 into the county. But now working with our contractor from Stantec, word is getting out. I promote that program, but then word of mouth is getting out, and we have just, Harris has just applied for our third, what's called an eligibility determination from EPA to allow us to conduct our third phase 1 assessment. So the money is really designed to help a business, a property, whether it's owned by government or privately owned, help them figure out, are there environmental contaminants that are going to prevent redevelopment? And if there are environmental contaminants, what's there? So that if a business is trying to sell, they can address those environmental contaminants so that everybody minimizes liability. So that program is moving. I've got about 3 other sites in the hopper. For example, we've got one project, and I don't want to describe specific projects yet, but there's one project where there's a property owner that's applying for some WEDC money, and then they're using our brownfield grant funding as the match against that WEDC grant. So we're really trying to maximize how we use that $300,000 so we stretch it. And I think that's a real positive thing. Of course, I am also implementing the CDBG close program that you've heard me talk about time and time again. So I will spare you the details of that. But the plan that we are working on is underway, and we have strong buy-in from the cities and villages in the county in that process because they make up our advisory group. Just want to point out quickly that the number of local communities that have come to the county for support with their community economic development projects has increased. And I'm very proud of that I'm supporting both the city of Appleton and Menasha, the larger communities as well as the smaller communities. You will note that Harrison isn't on this list, but I have now, starting in 2020, I've got some projects where I'm supporting Harrison. So I feel pretty good about that. And that, I guess the last thing I will conclude with from a marketing outreach standpoint, we continue, thankfully Connie Leonard is very good at creating the newsletter. So we now have almost 500 names on our newsletter list, and we have roughly a 50% open rate. I understand that doesn't tell me if they've read the newsletter or not, but 50% of your addresses on a mailing list of that sort is apparently above industry standards, so I'm proud of that. That's all I have.
Supervisor Gins.
Thank you. I recently attended at Fox Valley Tech the opening of a career center in regard to a partnership between Junior Achievement and Fox Valley Tech. Do you have any linkages there? It's an amazing resource. The only other one in the state is in Milwaukee.
I agree with you that it's an awesome resource. I was not able to make that open house. I'm aware of it. I would say our linkage there is probably through our local Fox Valley Tech College campus here in Chilton. And I think I would just say that's an issue that's on my wish list for expanding into that realm and connecting with them because those are great opportunities for our youth.
And all of our high schools in Calumet County are part of the Fox Valley Technical College District. Let me know if you need some help there.
Okay, great. I will do that.
Okay. Supervisor Lachey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question in regards to the allocations of the funds to help businesses clean up contaminated sites, I'm understanding. Is that part of the super fund?
No. The grant, so just to be clear, the community-wide brownfield assessment $300,000 grant that was awarded to Calumet County does not do cleanup.
Okay.
It helps identify some, and I speak in these terms that now I actually understand what I'm talking about, but I didn't used to. So sorry, because I probably am assuming things that, so a phase 1 environmental assessment and a phase 2 environmental assessment. Phase 1 is basically a glorified literature search to figure out, is there reason to think there could be contaminant here? And then phase 2, according to my consultant, is when they punch holes in the ground and drill holes and see if there's actually contaminants in the soil, in the water, under the building, etc. So you figure out where those contaminants are, and then from there, there's other things our money can be used for, up to the point of doing an actual cleanup. So our funds can't be used for cleanup, but if we use our funds wisely, they wrap around other funding that's available to support the businesses or the governments.
Okay, because my concern was, the Superfund basically was to find those sites and to verify them, and then my understanding was that cleanup would go back to the original owners of that property to have them pay to have that done. I'm just concerned about us, putting tax dollars towards these businesses and helping them clean up that mess that they actually created. So that would be my concern with that.
So everything we do in that program is grant funded. So when I go on site with our contractor Harris Byers from Stantec, that's all covered by the grant. And there are no funds. If there's a viable causer, I mean, that means that, so for example, in the case of Miro in Manitowoc, that former Miro site in Manitowoc, which Stantec also is their contractor, there's still a company, the entity that bought Miro, Newell Rubbermaid, Anchor Hocking, they are still legally on the hook to pay those costs. So we're not using our grant dollars or tax dollars to pay for that.
Okay.
The only case that you would use, for example, state of Wisconsin funding, is if a company has gone bankrupt and there's no longer any legal entity to clean it up, and then the government generally owns it in that case. So in this case, it would be like, say, the city of Chilton owns Chilton Plating as one example. There's nobody left to clean that up. Then you need some tax dollars, but that our grant money still would not be used for that.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Are there any other questions? Okay, if not, thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
And now we hear from Matt.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'll pick up on Goal 5 and talk a little bit about tourism accomplishments for 2019 as it relates to Goal 5 and sustaining and growing Calumet County's economy. This is on your in your packet. It'd be the last third of a page in Goal 5. So first, as Michelle mentioned earlier, we worked closely with her department and Cindy Gable. Dina Mooney and Chris Moyer in our department worked on a new tourism website that involved migrating existing content, creating new content, updating photos, and updating the whole website. We also partook in 2 photo shoots within the department to get professional grade photography, not only for tourism, but if you look at the new website, a lot of the general photos on the general website for Calumet County, a lot of those come from that photo shoot, and I know Parks has used some of those. When you have photography, I can take plenty of pictures with my phone. But when it comes to a professional look on a professional website, those really just don't meet the standards that you want there. We also, Dina Mooney does a wonderful job with our annual visitor guide and working with Xander Press out of Brillion. So the 2020 visitor guide is out. It's been out for a little under a month. There are some copies on the table by the sign-in sheet. So that our efforts, or Dina's efforts, revolve around coordinating with Xander on the theme of the guide, the annual theme that always changes, and providing the content within that guide. Xander does the professional layout, and they do the recruitment for ads for the guide at no cost to the county. So a really good project, and it really turned out nice this year. We also coordinated 3 updates of our video series, which would have been the winter, summer, and fall videos. So we took previous videos, used a lot of that footage, had additional footage at a very reduced cost, and rewrapped those videos. That resulted in approximately 98,000 reaches. We boost those when we put them out on Facebook, resulting in approximately 58,000 video views and approximately 900 reactions, comments, and shares. So that's been a success of getting that out for a relatively good return on our investment on those products. Dina also assisted numerous tourism destinations. She helped support and develop a joint effort marketing application for the Brilliant Optimist Club. Unfortunately, that grant application was unsuccessful. We develop and distribute a lot of print media materials, guides, what have you, different maps, the county road map that you see that is developed in our office by Andy Hayes. Lastly, I would touch on is we're a member of what's called ITBEC, and they go through their branding initiative, which is called Endless Shores. That's a collaboration between Winnebago, Fond du Lac County, and Calumet County. And that is kind of comes from the Wisconsin Counties Association. It's under that. So there's little money from WCA, and then member counties pay dues, and they work on promoting the Lake Winnebago region in its entirety. So there's an Endless Shores website. There's different material that's provided through that for marketing that touches on Calumet County. So those are our 2019 accomplishments in the strategic plan.
Any questions of Matt? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to resolution.
Resolution 2019-40, resolution authorizing the Administrative Services Committee to settle accounts not exceeding $10,000, introduced by the Administrative Services Committee.
All right, I have a motion by Supervisor Draheim and a second by Supervisor Steer to adopt this resolution. And Supervisor Gentz, would you speak to this resolution?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do this, I believe, each year, and the Wisconsin statutes allow for the county board by resolution to authorize a committee of our county board to settle accounts under a certain amount. And for quite a few years now, it's been like $10,000, and the Administrative Services Committee has been designated to settle those accounts. Thank you.
Are there any questions of Supervisor Gentz regarding the resolution? If not, please vote your ballot. We have 19 yes, 0 nay, 2 absent. It has received the majority vote, so that resolution has been adopted. Moving on to Resolution 2019-41.
Resolution authorizing continuing appropriations, introduced by the Administrative Services Committee.
All right, I have a motion by Supervisor Draheim and a second by Supervisor Steer. And Supervisor Gentz, would you address this resolution?
Thank you. Each year, as we move into for example, this year 2020 budget, we look back at our 2019 budget, look at those accounts that need to be carried over from 19 into 20. And if you look at that resolution, you'll see a line drawn under the funds. And the funds have dollars in them that need to be spent for a specific purpose. And so we carry those funds over. And then we have a number of accounts that for one reason or another are carried over from 2019 into 2020, and you see those designated. I believe that's all I need to say there. Thank you.
Are there any questions regarding this resolution? If not, please vote your ballot. We have 19 yes, 0 nay, 2 absent. It has received the 2/3 vote, so it has been adopted. Moving on to Supervisor Reports. If you have reports, would you please push your request to speak? All right, we have Supervisor Gentz.
Thank you. I want to just bring you up to date on one of the efforts that is being made, has been for a few years now in Calumet County, and that's the Healthiest Calumet County Steering Committee work. There are 2 groups that work within that structure. One is UCAN, which is a physical activity and nutrition action team. We've got quite a few people in the county that are working under that umbrella of UCAN. And then we've got a second one that deals with reducing excessive alcohol consumption, and it's expanded over into the drugs that are a problem. And that is called REACH, Reducing Excessive Alcohol Consumption for Health. And at your station or at your desk this morning, you have two handouts. One is an effort that is being made by UCAN. It's a coalition with AmeriCorps, and AmeriCorps is represented by Heather Theory. She's working within the 5 high schools within the county that you see, and there's an effort there to identify what she's doing in each of those schools. I should point out that through the efforts of the healthiest Calumet County, much effort has been put into involving the students within these schools. And it's amazing the kinds of effort that we're seeing come forward from those schools, and the effort regarding the UCAN activities. So you can read that. And then there's on March 17th, you're all invited to attend a REACH Community Summit, which is going to focus on changing the future of our youth. There are a number of experts that will be available at that breakfast. March 17th at 7:30, it'll be at the Calumet Hospital, the Ascension Calumet Hospital, and just look forward for more details regarding that. You're all invited to that breakfast. Thank you. Oh, is it? Yes.
Okay, moving
Okay.
on then, Supervisor Booty.
Thank you. First report kind of dovetails really nicely with what we had just heard from Matt at our latest ITBEC meeting from last week. We're ramping up our advertising strategy with the Endless Shores brand, which is made up of all the members of our ITBEC, Calumet County, Fond du Lac County, and Winnebago County. This year, we're going to be targeting our audience in southeastern Wisconsin with internet advertising on streaming radio services, using our emailing list to reach out to people who have opted in, and even posting up a billboard to go kind of old school with that. And then an upcoming thing, the Rules of Order Committee will be meeting on Friday, March 6th at 8 a.m. Please, if you have any things you'd like me or me to put on the agenda for us to discuss in regards to the next term's rules of order, please let me know. Our agenda currently is going to be discussing the membership of the Veterans Services Committee, the membership of the Traffic Safety Committee, and we'll also be looking at the committee meeting calendar and times to hopefully be able to coordinate those so we have less conflicts between different committees meeting at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Booty. Supervisor Hartle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I attended the WCA's Legislative Exchange conference or whatever a number of weeks ago, and along with other members of the board. And the part that struck me was WCA Board Chair Mark O'Connell's presentation looking at demographics, economic issues, and education issues in the next 25 to 30 years. And although it doesn't affect us immediately, it's something for us to consider as we are looking at resolutions, ordinances, and where we tend to put our efforts. For example, demographics, Wisconsin is aging rapidly, moving from 15% to 24% of the population will be over the age of 65, and that's assuming that there are no advances in medicine. So by 2030, 1 in 3 of the population will be over 65 in 21 of Wisconsin counties. Not as much of an issue maybe for Calumet because we are a faster growing county and we have Appleton to thank for some of the millennial influx. But moving on, the economy in 5 to 30 years. We know that there's a one-to-one correlation of more education leads to higher per capita earnings for population. And right now, Wisconsin, 4-year degrees, we are behind nationally, and we are behind Minnesota in that area. Even though we might argue that 4-year degrees aren't necessarily the wave of where jobs are, it still is an indicator of economic growth and sustainability. We're a bit ahead, slightly ahead in 2-year degrees. But more people making more money and engaged in more commerce makes us healthier for doing the work that we need to do. So we need to provide citizens with more educational opportunities. Moving into that area, education, this is the part that scared me the most, or well, not scared necessarily, but gave me pause. $1.48 trillion in student loan debt in this country. $1.48 trillion. 71% of students leaving college will have debt. On average, they have $33,000, which leads to $390 in average monthly payments. That's a decided drag on the economy in the future, because when they're carrying that much debt, they can't move forward in a lot of the areas that we would think a 20, 30-year-old should be able to move into. So income and wages go down, property taxes become higher, and we can't keep raising property taxes because retired people and people with less income can't afford the raises in property taxes. My district, town of Stockbridge, just went and raised their rate by quite a bit just to cover roads, and most of the people on my road are retired. So a number of them are in pretty good shape. They can afford the raise, but over the next 25 or 30 years, we're going to have to look at other ways to support county services other than property taxes. So all those items give us information on how we might look at impacting political messaging going into the future. I also attended Conservation Lobby Day for clean water, and a number of those bills which would bring money into our county as far as improving our county conservation department, bringing that money into the county conservation department. Those bills are being voted on today, so just kind of keep your eye on those. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of the things I was going to report on have already been reported on by Supervisor Gens and Judy Hartle. But when we talked about the aging population, they've said for several years that the majority of the aging population is going to be north of Highway 29. Excuse me. And the thing is that the younger people are moving out of the area, so there will not be people to care for those people in the north. So that's another big issue too. If you have been watching, WCA sent out a capital watch on the SRCCYs, and we were told not to call them Circes. For those of you who don't know, those are the secure residential care centers for children and youth. That's the closing of Lincoln Hills and Copper Lake. The two Type 1 facilities, was my understanding, have been shot down by the Finance Committee. They were supposed to go in Milwaukee and Hortonia, I believe. But they did okay the 4 counties to have the other centers. But there does not seem to be the amount of money available that is needed for all these facilities. So this seems like it's kind of in limbo here for a while again. And of course, the legislature is going to be out of session pretty soon, so that's kind of hanging there. The other thing is the health organization WALDAB. There's a bill that is requiring that you cannot purchase any nicotine, tobacco, or nicotine vaping products if you're under 21, but the health organization is concerned about that because there are other vaping chemicals that can cause problems other than just nicotine, and that is not part of the bill as of yet. So the other thing, parks, our Tube Hill was open this weekend, and I understand it may be open again next weekend, but as with other facilities, we are having difficulty staffing these facilities, if you know of anybody who would like a job. So, and our snowmobile trails are open, but please be careful. We've, throughout the state have had a few accidents and a couple fatalities, and we've all probably had experiences with snowmobilers assuming they can beat a vehicle. I personally had one the other night in Potter that should have waited but decided to cross in front of me. So, thank you, Madam Chair.
I'd just like to mention to the board that the Senate has on their calendar our judge bill. Hopefully it'll be voted on today or tomorrow. I had a serious talk with Senator Fitzgerald at the legislative days and also the governor, telling them how important it was for us to have a judge here in Calumet County. So I'm just excited as heck, and I hope everything goes through well. It did pass the Joint Finance Committee 13-0, and I had a call from Representative Tittle and Lemieux that kind of looked like we should have a heads up. Good going. On March 23rd at 9 o'clock, we're going to have the Student Government Day. This year, we're dealing with the middle school students instead of the high school. It was not a happy thing that I decided to go with the middle school with the American Legion that usually sponsors this. They wanted to still stay with the high school. However, after several years of having high school students here and them being here only because they get the day off, I decided that maybe it was better if we went with the middle school students. I think we make a better impression with the younger students than we do with the high school, and I figure by the time you're in high school, you ought to know about county government and how to vote and so forth. Beth is taking the lead on this with Todd and Carly, our 4-H leader. Mark O'Connell also will be here that day to talk. So I just wanted to let you know about that. And as some of you may have read in the paper, that Outagamie County has opted to get out of East Central Regional Planning. It's been a really busy month trying to decide what East Central can do to keep Outagamie County in the regional planning area. We have another meeting on Monday, the 24th. It's going to be very difficult, as far as I'm concerned, to keep Outagamie County in the loop. They're demanding several things. They feel that because their equalized value is high, and that's what they base the levy on for East Central, that they feel that they're paying more than what they're getting. Calumet County gives about $60,000, and I felt that with that amount of money that we provide them, that we have received, good programming from them. We have received our amount of money. So I'll keep you informed. I sure hope we can continue on. It's going to be very difficult from the onset of what I'm hearing and seeing now, but I will keep you informed as we go along. I just wanted to let you know that we are negotiating, and we'll see where that goes. Other than that, I have no other information to give to you. So our next speaker will be Representative Lissay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to report that I was invited by the Vet Vote organization to join them in Washington, D.C. on February 24th to the 27th. They're having representatives from all the states to ask them to support full funding of the Land and Water Conservation Fund. This fund is used for outdoor recreation funding as another branch of the recovery for the wounded vets and returning, those vets that are returning from service. So I plan on attending that and supporting that effort. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'd like to just sing the praises of our ADRC for just a moment. They have worked hard. There's a homestead credit tax assistance at Stockbridge Meal Site on February 25th from 9:30 to 10:45, and from Hilbert Manor on that same day from 1 to 2:30. You can call the ADRC to make an appointment if you want help or if your constituents want help with the homestead credit tax assistance. Also, Sutter Accounting is offering tax help to Calumet County senior citizens age 60 or over, or individuals who have been laid off or unemployed in the last year with an income of $25,000 or less. Also, call the ADRC, talk to Kathy Greschel, make an appointment. There's the Calumet County Family Caregiver Support Group that meets the last Thursday of every month from 1:30 to 3 at Fox Valley Tech in Chilton. Next meeting is February 27th. If you want more information on that, again, call the ADRC. They're also involved with Wisconsin Home Energy Assistance Program is available if you're on a fixed income, disability, or meet income guidelines. And you can call Calumet County Energy Services to see if you qualify for an energy grant. Red Cross will be available to install a limited number of free smoke alarms for those who cannot afford to or are physically unable to install them. And you can find out more about that by calling the ADRC or going to https://getsmokealarm.org. But just really wanting to give a shout out to the programs the ADRC is offering. They're helping with the elderly and disabled nutrition program, transportation to get people to and from medical visits, the family caregiver support groups, evidence-based health promotion classes. They do Tai Chi, they do step classes, all types of different things, yoga. They do information and assistance counseling, benefits counseling. They provide volunteer opportunities for seniors and those wanting to help seniors. And then they do coordinate friendly visitor telephone reassurance program for those who are isolated and in their homes. So I just wanted to shout out and say great job to our ADRC.
Supervisor Lochran.
Thank you. I just want to report on a handout that I got at the legislative convention in Madison a couple of weeks ago. It's from Alliant Energy, and they were talking about their solar power, and this is my message. They'll power 260,000 homes by the year 2023. That's a lot of homes. And so that should give some relief to things going on in our air. A comment on Judy's statements about taxation. If we taxed everybody, forget some of the tax exemptions, we'd have plenty of money and it'd be equal. I do want to bring you up to date on I've talked often about the project I'm working on for testing groundwater. That's still much alive. I made a contact with a friend of mine who's an engineer in Lincoln, Nebraska. He happened to marry my granddaughter, and that's his work, is to design specific instruments to test through computers. So I was fortunate enough last week to talk to Todd Novak. He's the head of the special committee the governor appointed for studying groundwater issues. So I was promised to be able to speak to that group, it probably won't be till after the next session because they're probably shut down by now already. But that project is much alive. The manufacturer would be a company out of Baker's Manufacturing out of Evansville, Wisconsin, just south of Madison. So that's where some of my time will be going in the future. I think it's really an important thing. The more people I reach out to, the better feeling I get about it. They know that we're not getting really good testing on our groundwater now, the way we're doing it now. And for example, I'll share this with you, the guy from Lincoln, Nebraska, my goal was so we'd be able to set up and at bingo, get the response to 30, 40 different metals that, He said that's probably too much and be too costly. He said if you go for it and test one item at a time, say if you want to test magnesium or whatever it might be, and do it constantly for 30 days, put it in an enclosed case so nobody can monkey with it, and that happens. Many of the tests that we get that coming out have been put in so they look good and taste good. So I just wanted to let you know that. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I also attended the WCA legislative review, and Supervisor Hartle also covered some of these things, but I wanted to emphasize one thing. Two of the presentations that were made pointed out the need that we have for filling skilled and unskilled positions, jobs in our communities, and across the state, actually. And we can't do much we can't tell parents to have more children. That's just not going to happen. We can't stop the baby boom generation from getting older and dying off. But historically, we have always created a certain amount of growth in our nation by allowing immigrants to come in. Immigrants buy houses, they buy groceries, they shop at all our local businesses. I think we just need to be paying more attention to allowing more immigrants into this country, as well as refugees. I'm personally involved with a Syrian refugee family and have 3 wonderful children, which I took sledding last weekend. The father is working at the Paper Valley Hotel in the kitchen facilities, and the mother is working at the YMCA in the daycare area. So they're filling necessary positions in our community, in our area. We need to be thinking more about increasing our immigration as one clear way of allowing our population to continue to expand and therefore our businesses to grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The sheriff invited me to attend the press conference where the Andres Foundation generously donated $10,000 for another dog for our department. So, thank you.
Thank you. Through on the legislative exchange that I attended to, one of the first comments that they made there that Social Security is going to run out of funds in 2034. Okay, but then through Congressman Gallagher, I got some information that the Medicare Trust Fund is going to run out of funds in 2028, and the Social Security Trust Fund is going to be depleted in 2022. So some information about Medicare. In 2017, the Medicare cost was $591 billion. Okay, but then loss to fraud was $60 billion. That sounds like a lot of change, big chunk of change to me. Anyway, then on On the legislative exchange, he said that the population in Wisconsin is 6 million. Okay, then there was somebody there from the Marquette Law School poll. I didn't know how they took that poll. I didn't know if they did it through the students or how they did get their numbers. But they said that they do it on phone calls. On 60% is cell phone calls, and then 40% is landline calls. Okay, then they did have a legislative leadership roundtable where they had Speaker Voss, Gordon Hintz, Scott Fitzgerald, and Jennifer Schilling. The minority and the major, not the major, but anyway, the speakers. Okay, when they would do this before, there'd always be two. There'd be two Republicans sitting on one side of a table and two Republicans and two Democrats on the other side, as if they wanted to be segregated. Okay, this time here they kind of mixed themselves up, like a Democrat was sitting by a Republican. Okay, and I mentioned something to Mark O'Connell about that. I said, they usually sit like side by side. I said, did you give them designated seats for that? He said, no, they just did that on their own. Okay, and I thought, boy, looking through that, maybe they're going to try to get along. But by golly, they did start taking raps at each other and stuff like that. Okay, about the judge for this. Okay, Ron Tussler said, and he calls it my bill, that he that he put in a bill for 12 new judicial districts. Now, he said to me, that's going to get you your judge. But Ron Tussler called it my bill, he says. So, okay, then through a legislative update with Kyle Christensen, there's one bill out there. It's related to the use of a wireless communication device, which is cell phones, while driving and providing a penalty. Now, I don't think that's came up yet, but if you get on the WCA's website, all the bills that they talk about, if they're in favor of or monitoring, okay, this bill, they said it's on the Senate bill, it says just that they were monitoring it, but on the Assembly bill, there was no comment on that. Also, then Kyle Christensen did one about a bill related to the liability of owners of vehicles involved in certain speed limit and failure to yield right-of-way violations and providing a penalty. So, okay, that's all I have about this, so thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We're going to miss Pat with all his water issues on the county board because you've kept us very informed of things that are going on, and I got to commend you. Good job. Also, to Student Government Day, I'm glad it's going with the middle school kids. I've been promoting that for years, and finally it's happening. In fact, the last 2 years, we've had the 7th grade from New Holstein here. The clerk of courts has been set up with that. I came and spoke I got 10 minutes to tell them what the county board does and things like that. And so it's been working fine for them, and I get thank you notes from the kids and all that, and it's very gratifying. Thank you.
I just want to explain that, yes, the teachers have been really receptive to having the middle school kids here, so we're looking forward. We have a pretty good turnout, looks like, so of course any supervisor is welcome to attend if you want to on your own, but I'm really looking forward to the day. I think it's going to be a fun time for them as well. All right, you have the county administrator's report. Were there any questions regarding his report? If not, Supervisor Draheim.
Thank you. I only have a question as to update on the building projects, the jail project. I can't believe that they didn't find bad soils, because we knew they had bad soils when we built the courthouse here. And they didn't do any soil borings. I'm really surprised. Also, that $200,000 contingency needed to comply with the state regulation changing the 6-foot cells to 7-foot. What, did the state just change the specs, or how did that come about?
The state changed the standards in the middle of our process, and so we attempted to say, could we be grandfathered into the 6-foot? And they said no. So the architect had to redraw the plans for 7-foot, and they had anticipated the cost to be much less. But if I recall, and Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the steel prices that drove the amount to be the 200,000, to be increased that much. Also, just going back to your soil borings, they did soil borings, but you can bore here and 10 feet down can be something different, and so we've had to backfill more than they anticipated.
So you're going to send the bill to the state for changing the law in between? I mean, it's only right. We had our people doing it as to what they wanted, and now they changed it, so this is wrong.
I am meeting with the construction manager and the architect at some point to discuss it, but that hasn't been set up yet. I just inquired about it last week, like what's the date? And they haven't gotten back to me. So we are meeting with them, but as for the state picking up the cost, I'll put your letter on, your name on that letter. I don't think it'll happen.
You want to bet? I think if we put all our names on that, we would get something, at least we'd hear from why they did it and why they aren't going to let us.
Well, if I recall, DOC, who has been at the table, was supporting our position, the county's position, and then they basically decided to step out of the argument, and it didn't go anywhere. After they stepped out, the state is standing firm on not grandfathering us in. And I don't know why DOC stepped out. If anybody, if Dan, if you're aware, or Mark, you're aware, but I know DOC was standing in, and then for some reason they felt that it wasn't their fight to fight any longer, and they stepped off.
What committee does that go to, so we get a resolution on the board here to get at least something going to the state? This is ridiculous. This is costing our taxpayers money, which shouldn't be.
I don't know. I would think admin services, but that would probably be something that would start with, or PPP, because it's not something that, I mean, Todd's brought it in his report, but otherwise we wouldn't bring anything. So if you would want to bring something up, it would start at PPP and then decide where you want to go from there.
Did you hear that, Pete? Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Supervisor Draheim, all right. Our next regular meeting will be March 17th at 8:30. We will be going into closed session, even though our administrator isn't here. We will be going into closed session for his performance evaluation. So I need